So you're going to cut the fabric along the width, not the length, not along the selvage, but along the top, the width. Just to make it easy to cut, I fold my fabric twice. So I have my fold aligned to the selvage. So you have two folds, one right there, and that's the selvage right there. So um, you're just gonna, fold it and then fold it again. And you're going to cut your fabric at 11 inches down from the top. I usually do 10.5 inches, but I did another one at 11 inches, and even though it's only half an inch difference, I don't know, it made it easier for me to put the towel, and it looks the same. It looks nice, but anyway. So here you're going to open, you see this is the width of your fabric, and your final piece should be 11 inches by 44 or 45, depending on your fabric, right? Then you're going to take your woven interfacing. And I love my woven interfacing from Fabric Wholesale Direct because it's 60 inches wide. And you can buy it by the yard, and it's only like $4 the yard or something like that. So anyway, I took a piece, I measured it, and I folded in half again, and I do 11, maybe 10 and a half, 11 inches wide. I think I did 11 this time. And I removed this kind of like the salvage of the woven interfacing. And yeah, just apply it along the entire piece. This is important because when you wash the fabric, when you wash this material, it could get a little wrinkled, or not wrinkled, but it just loses the shape, and having the woven interfacing helps with keeping the shape of the fabric. So I just use my heat press to add the woven interfacing to the entire piece, and that way I don't have to keep using the iron in up and down, up and down. You know how it is. So this process right here, it just makes it easier for me. And this is how it looks. It takes about 30 seconds per section to press it, so it's not a very long time. And it's all done, and it's done right, which is important. So now we're going to cut the fabric, give the fabric the shape, give the scarf towel the shape. The first thing I'm going to do is measure the back of the fabric. Well, first I need to make sure all the fabrics, you know, all the edges align and nothing is crooked, twisted, anything like that. Then we're going to measure the back of the scarf towel. And the previous scarf towels I've made have been a little bit wider, and I want to try making them a little bit more narrow on the back. So I am going to make them 3 inches wide on the back. You can do this in different ways. You can fold this in half again, and then measure 1.5 inch and 1.5 inch on each side. Now I have done this, and I have made the mistakes of just doing 1 inch, and then it was too skinny, too small. So just be careful, okay? Just double check your measurements always. But that's what I did. I folded the material. again in half along the width one more time. So it's like what, 5.5 inches. And then I measured 1.5 inch from the folded edge with the goal that I will have 3 inches down the center. So it's what, 1, 2, 3, 4 inches on each side, and then 3 inches down the center. And that's where you want to make sure you have your measurements, okay? And use whatever you need to be able to see what you're doing, because yeah, that other pen did not work. It kind of was blending in with the color of the fabric. And now you can measure from the top on those markings that you made down to the bottom of the fabric. So still folded in half along the width. And you're going to draw a line from that top marking all the way to the bottom, but not all the way to the very bottom. You're going to leave about 3/4 of an inch down from the edge. As you can see, my ruler is not all the way down to the bottom because you need to leave that space for your seam allowance. So again, I'm going to draw a line from the very top that is folded in half down to 3/4 of an inch before the edge of the fabric. I hope I'm making sense. But you're going to draw kind of like a triangle from that edge to the very bottom. Okay, and just measure this several times, because remember, you can measure as many times as you need to, but you can only cut once. So measure, measure, measure until you're 100% sure. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm measuring, okay, I have 4 inches, and I'm going to draw my line from there up to that point that's 1/4 inch from the edge, not all the way to the very bottom. And that's my fold. So I'm double checking, making sure that my fold is on the top of the scarf towel and the sides are open, right? And now I'm going to cut. And for some reason, my blade is giving me a hard time today. And then we're going to do the same on the other side. Again, align your piece of fabric to your mat so that you know for a fact that it's straight. Believe me, I have done that, where it's not straight and then it's all crooked. So just make sure, and then you just cut your material. And now you have an entire piece that is joined together, and as you can see, it's like 2 triangles joined at the top. Now I'm going to add 2 pieces of iron-on hemming tape. It's 1/2 inch wide. And this step is optional, completely optional, but it has helped me keep the hem in place as I'm stitching the scarf towel, and also when I'm inserting the towel in the tube, the fabric doesn't move around. So I found this to be helpful. So I take the double-sided hemming tape and I cut it, by the width of my um, fabric, so 11 inches, and I press it using a hot iron. The process is really simple. At first, I warm the fabric, right? I use the iron, I'm sorry, the iron, and I kind of warm the fabric a little bit. Then I take the hemming tape and I make sure that the sticky side is down, and then I carefully press it. And you don't want to slide it. I'm actually lifting up the iron a little bit at a time. It's not very noticeable in the video, but that's what I'm doing. I'm lifting the iron a little bit at a time, so it's not just sliding it, and then I'm applying a little bit of pressure, but it's a quick process. It won't take long. Then what I do is I fold the bottom edge, the hem again, and I press it again, and that creates the crease along my seam. Once I do that, and I do it on both sides, then I peel it off. There is this little film that is covering the iron-on plastic, I guess. I peel it off and then press it again, and as I'm peeling it off, I'm pressing it, and that helps the fabric stick together. And now my seam is just going to stay in place. It's not going to move at all. And that makes it so much easier when it's time to insert the towel after you make the little tube. So this has really helped me. I know it's an extra step, but it also makes it easier towards the end of the construction of the scarf towel. So that's why I do it. Next, you're going to fold your scarf towel all along the length, right sides together. Okay, so you're going to have a long tube, and you're going to just add as many clips as you need to along the edge here where you're joining the two pieces of fabric together. Um, again, this is as necessary based on, how comfortable you feel with the material that you're using, etc. Uh, but the most important thing is that everything aligns nicely along the edge, that nothing is crooked, that everything looks nice and even. And you're going to take this to your sewing machine and stitch it all along the edge using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So from one bottom to the other bottom. And as you can see, my seam there doesn't look completely 100% straight, so I can still adjust it a little bit. But this step is important. You want to make sure that the bottom is even, even if you have a little bit of extra fabric that you can trim off later. Otherwise, it's going to be really difficult. Not difficult, but it's just gonna look a little bit crooked, and you don't want that. So anyway, take it to the sewing machine now and stitch it at a 1/4 inch seam allowance all along the edge. Consider liking this video and subscribing to this channel if you have learned something today. Okay, I'm back. And so I like to open my seam, but I sometimes don't just want to, go back to the iron. So I have this little tool that is a seam presser, and I just literally press the seam all along the tube open, and that helps it after you turn the tube right side out. um, Makes it look more flat at the back of the seam and more professional. To turn my fabric right side out, I used a Hemostat. I find that um, it's a little bit, difficult to get it inside the tube, but once you grab the fabric with this, it will not let go. Okay. So because the tube has that narrow center, it is a little bit, I'm not going to say it's easy. I'm not going to say it's super difficult, but it will take some maneuvering. So if you have another tool, if you have something else that you use that is better, go ahead, use whatever it is that you use to turn your tubes right side out. I have been using the Hemostat for a while, so yeah. I mean, it works. Like I said, once it grabs the fabric, it won't let go. So that I know, it's just getting it to grab the fabric can be a little bit tricky, but I think I got it now. Let me see. And there you have it. My little scarf towel tube is right side out. All I need to do now is, make sure that the seam is along the back of the scarf towel and that everything is nice and flat and smooth. I mean, you don't want the seam on the side of the scarf towel or, to be crooked. So just work the material until you have it looking the way you like it. And I press it. I take it to the hot iron and press it one more time just to make sure that it is nice and smooth. Now take your towel. I purchased my towels. They're about 16 by 25 inches long. I like long towels. You're going to fold them along the width and cut them in half, as I'm doing here right now. And I cut them, um, very carefully, okay? You want them to be even, right? And I like them 25 inches long because I want to have a lot of towel. It's a scarf towel, it's the towel, right? That's what's important about this whole project. And you want it to be, a little bit wider than 11 inches. So take your towel and then you can either gather it like this or fold it in halves, however you like to final towel to look. I like the gather look. So I tried to gather it and then insert it into the tube, the end of the tube. Now, this process definitely makes it easier when you do the hemming tape because now the fabric is not going to be opening every time you pull the towel because you're measuring it, because it's gathering and you don't like how it looks, so you have to put it back in like right now. The fabric along the hem, along the bottom of the scarf towel, the tube, it stays in place. It doesn't move. So that really helps it just makes it easier. And so that's what you're going to do at this point. You're just going to gather it. Sometimes I add a stitch line along the top and then I pull the thread. That way it just helps it kind of stay in place when for gathering, but it really is up to you. Oh, another way is just folding it. Folding the towels just make it easier to insert it. Gathering, I think, is the most difficult way of doing it. I think if you just fold the towel and it's nice and smooth on the front, it's just way easier to insert and stitch. But like I said, I like the gather look. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to do that, put pins along the sides. And of course, now I'm getting my tag, and that's usually where I place it. I place my label, my tag for my brand right there at the bottom. You can place it on the side. I mean, this is completely up to you how you want to do it. You can also use double-sided tape. This is another tip. You can use double-sided tape to keep the towel inside the tube, and that, especially when you're taking it to the sewing machine, that really helps keeping the towel also in place. So that I didn't do it this time, but I have done that before where I put some double-sided tape inside the tube and then I take it to the sewing machine and that really helps. And the final step is to stitch all of it together. So I usually start at the bottom edge where the opening is, where the towel is. I stitch it at a 1/4 inch seam allowance or well between 1/8 and 1/4, okay? But along the sides is definitely 1/8 of an inch. And I just stitch it all along the sides, start at the bottom, then the sides, then across the bottom, and then on the other side. And that's it. Now, before you stitch the towels, just rearrange the towel if you have to. Just move it around, make sure that it's where you want it to be, because I have done that where after I stitch it, the towel moved. So now I have to undo the stitching and stitch it again and all of that. So just take your time here. Don't try to rush it because the towel tends to move a little bit. That's why sometimes adding the double-sided tape really helps. Now, isn't this beautiful? You guys, it turned out really cute. I did have to move the towel a little bit. I was having a little bit of a problem, but I fixed it. So go through the everything, remove any little threads, anything like that. And you see the back is skinnier, so it's just more comfortable when you're using it. That's why I like to make it this way. But guys, this turned out really, really cute. And again, just go through it, make sure all the little threads that you cut, that there's nothing, that you don't like, the stitch line, something. Like I literally analyze everything. Sometimes that's a problem because I just, want perfection here. And hey, anyway. Quality over quantity, right? Quality control. And I have my helper here doing the quality control for me too. So anyway, hope you enjoy this and I cannot wait to see all the beautiful scarf towels you are going to be making. I will see you in the next video. Ciao.